Hello, this is Siri and you're listening to my favorite podcast, Not Real Art. I live for this shit cause it's totally lit.
Let's go!
Not Real Art, the podcast, Siri's favorite art and culture podcast with the renowned Man One.
And Mr. Sourdough, who we all know and love.
People love sourdough.
They do love sourdough.
Like me, it's an acquired taste, so I feel like the name fits, you know?
Yeah.
Got another name for you.
Another name.
Well, not for me, but I mean just a name.
Oh, okay.
Banksy.
Yeah. You can go with Banksy too if you want.
Well, no, I'm saying like, you know, it's been a big, interesting week for Banksy.
Right. Well, anytime his name's in the news, he's doing something big. He doesn't do small shit. That's for sure. He's not small C. He's Banksy. Yeah. No, he's a trip, but I guess you're referring to the auction house self-destroying art piece that he put on auction.
Girl with a balloon, little girl with a balloon,
Yeah.
something like that. Here's what I want.
Yeah.
I want him to start selling those frames.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the fucking, like,
Yeah.
sell those fucking frames.
Right.
You could be a fucking millionaire just based on like marketing frames that shred the shit on demand.
Dude, you have a picture of your wife, and then you get divorced. You get divorced, and you just fucking hit the button. That's fucking genius. How genius is that?
Banksy shredders.
Banksy shredders. Wow, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Get Banksy. Oh man, I don't even know where to start with this.
Well, see, again, I think like this is one of those stories
Yeah.
that really fits nicely within the context of not real art.
Right.
I mean, this was absolutely a jab, a finger, a punch, a kick into the world of quote unquote real art.
Right. But it's more than that too. It's kind of
sure.
weird because the funny thing was after it happened and it was all over the media and all over the Twitter and everywhere else. When I heard people still believing that Banksy had actually pulled one over on the auction house,
Right.
like it made me laugh because, and I think that's exactly where the genius of Banksy's statements are, is that they live on so many levels, right?
Yep.
Because there's the action he creates and then the reaction people have to it. But then there's another reaction that's deeper than that, that's rooted in people's beliefs and in what they think is real or not real. And that's where it all gets fucked up.
Yep.
You know? So I had artist friends who still thought like, oh, wow, fuck, he's a genius, you know? That's great. He did that and he's telling these people to fuck off. And then I'm like, well, you realize the auction house had to have, worked with him to make this happen. And they were like, no, they didn't. No, he just did it. Yeah. Okay,
right.
He just did it. And then there's obviously other people who are just like completely cynical and just like, yeah, fuck that. You know, there's obviously done this way, whatever. But it's just that's his genius, is that he's able to, his art works on so many levels. You know?
Right.
And it's very simple, really.
Yeah.
All his work is very simple. A fucking stencil, a fucking, a shredder, whatever it is. But it's just the way he does it and a lot of thought behind it. So, I'm a fan. I like Banksy.
We talked about this on an earlier show vis-a-vis Burning Man. I mean, It's about context, right?
Right.
His art is very simple, but he puts it in or activates it or places it or whatever in certain situations that creates this exponential impact.
Yeah.
What a gift to the buyer, right? It had just sold, I read in the paper, right, to this European collector over the phone, 1.4 million, right? And as the story goes, at least in the press, right?
Yeah.
It was a little unclear at first as to whether or not the woman would want to keep the piece. But of course, she has decided to keep the piece, and it's like, wow, what a gift. She paid 1.4 for something that was instantly made more valuable.
Right. Well, if you're believing that she actually paid, or if you're believing that she
Well,
didn't
if
know
she
about
was
it,
in on it,
or if you're believing there was a she,
I mean, it could all be a ruse.
yeah,
you
it's
know?
all it's all fucking fake.
So you think the buyer was even?
I think the whole thing's is dude. If you just sold a piece for 1.4 million,
Mhm.
think of it, you're the auction house.
Yeah.
If you honestly just sold a piece for 1.4 million, and then it gets fucking destroyed as the fucking money's being wired over, you would have a holy shit moment.
Right.
You wouldn't be like, oh well, whatever. You know, you would be like, we're fucked because we got to give this money back, or she's gonna sue us, or all kinds of shit.
Okay, so all right, so let me stop you because I'm thinking about this, and the truth of the matter is, because I agree with the premise. I agree that it was "quote unquote" an inside job.
Yeah.
Okay,
totally.
I do agree with that. I'm not arguing with that at
Yeah.
all. But that being said, it could only be trusted with like one or two people, right? Like very few people were in on it, right? The right people, the minimum number of people were in on it. The right people on the Sotheby's side, and then this, to your point, probably this was so-called female collector out of Europe, right? You'd have to limit the people that were in on it because the leaks and because as soon as it becomes verifiably an inside job that was contrived, the mystery is great and leaving people guessing and stuff like that's part of it, right?
Right.
But like as soon as the truth broke about Sotheby's was in on it, the buyer was a plant, and it was all laid out, then the excitement and the sort of buzz around it would deflate immediately, right?
Yeah. Every single auction at every single auction house is contrived.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Sure.
You know?
Right.
So
right. Yeah.
Everyone knows what it's going to sell for. Everyone knows who's going to buy it. Everyone knows. And what I mean everyone is people in the inner circle at those places. So I don't think it's anything different than that. It reminds me of, what was that guy? Was it Wynn? Steve Wynn?
Steve Wynn, yeah.
Right?
When he bumped into his Picasso?
Yeah, he like tore a hole in the Picasso, right?
Yeah.
Well, that shit wasn't worth more money at that point.
Right.
You know, the sale didn't happen. You know, that was really a oh shit moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I mean, it's brilliant no matter how much of it is true or not true. It's kind of all, it doesn't matter. It's theater on a huge scale.
Is it performance art?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I've always said it. Banksy, to me, is a performance artist. He's not a good painter, or he's not a. I mean, not that he's that bad painter. I'm not saying. I'm not judging his painting either way.
Well, I don't think he positions himself as a painter.
No.
Right. He's not billing himself as a painter.
But he does position himself as a graffiti artist. But I think it's in the stunt that his graffiti lives. You know. So it doesn't matter if it's a spray can or whatever it is. It's the performance he creates around it. You know, even if you go to, I remember going to his show, and I mean, he's brilliant. You know, he had the big giant elephant in the room, right? Like
elephant
literally
in the room.
Yeah.
I love it.
And
so good.
The whole thing became about, this is an artist who's painting on elephants, and PETA was all over him, and it became this whole thing, and it was brilliant. As the fucking elephant in the room as he's talking about graffiti. But no, they were focused on the fucking painting of the elephant. So it's performance, 100%. And he's a genius at it. And I also don't think he works alone. I also, he has a crew or people or whatever the fuck it is that he, however many people work together. But he's a great performance artist.
If he does have a crew or a staff, and we know some artists do. I mean, Jeff Koons, for example, is famously, employing fabricators and artists that realize his concepts.
Any major artist now,
right?
Any major artist.
Does that make them less of an artist?
No. It just, but there is, like, for example, is it Koons or Hearst? One of them, like, doesn't even create his own ideas anymore. I think it was. I think it was Damien Hirst.
Really?
Was it Damien Hirst or Koons? I'm forgetting. But one of them just like will take ideas from his staff. Like, they'll create a piece of art and he'll sign off on it.
And put his name on it.
And put a name. Oh, that's a good one. I'll put my name on it. So it's probably Koons, I guess I would say. I don't know. But that's also a big discussion, right? Like in the art world, is like, at what point does that art lose its authenticity? How many degrees of art helpers do you need before it's no longer your work? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I know I hire assistants,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but they're assistants. I have the idea, and they're helping me complete my idea, and that's what I pay them for. These guys are doing it on a big scale. They have hundreds of people working for them.
Yeah, but your assistants feed you bonbons and get you your fine wine and cheese.
Yeah, of course.
Because that's how you roll.
That's how I roll. That's how I roll. I don't know. I mean, it's Murakami does that, and all these guys.
So, in 100 years, what will they be calling this? The art form of Murakami and Banksy and Retina or whatever. I mean, is it going to be pop art?
Not real art. That's what I'm going to call it.
It's contemporary art in the truest sense of the phrase, contemporary, because these are living artists, contemporary artists doing, but on some level, like Banksy, it breaks through into pop culture. Right. So there's a performance part to it. There's an entertainment element to it.
Yeah.
Right. Koons' art has an entertainment element to it. Cause's art has an entertainment element to it. I don't know. I mean, what are the historians going to say about this era?
Right. Who cares? Who cares?
True that.
It's one of those things is like, I remember when I was in college and I was studying art history and reading all these books on all these artists and all this kind of shit. And I was like, man, one day I got to be in the history books. That's what's important. You got to be in the history books. So then I remember after college and just like, how do I get in history books, right? Well, I got to show here and show there and get in museums and get in collections. And the more I ventured in that direction, the more I just didn't want to do that. And the more I saw the bullshit behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally I realized one day what it really is about. And it's not about being a good artist and getting in the history books. It's about writing the history books. That's what it's about. Is you got to be able to actually write the fucking book and put your name in it. And that's it. Then you're in the history books, So, I mean, that's the future of what's going to happen is whoever the quote unquote art historians are going to be the people that are writing the books right now, or are going to be writing the books. And now it's not even books. Now it's like, it's all digital. Who knows? But it's the art world is just so fucked up and such a, like, I have no aspirations of really diving into the art world. Like I want to be part of this art world. Like I don't. I just want to do what I want to do, and that's it. And so these big dreams I had, as a youngster about being known for decades later and having all this stuff written about me, as all that's kind of faded.
Yeah, but the irony is that as that desire has faded in you, I think it's, if for no other reason, the fact that you are in the book at Getty, right? Forgetting the name of the book.
Yeah, the Getty Black book. Yeah,
Getty Black book.
Yeah, the Amor. What is it called? It's the fucking labor. Whatever. I'll remember it.
Okay, but
I can never say
whatever it's called. The point is, you are in the history books.
Yeah,
that's a history book,
right?
The Getty Black book, the Getty Museum is the history in the making. Right there, you were invited. So
yeah.
So the point is that you accomplished your goal on some level.
Right.
That goal is accomplished. But I think to your point, the point you're making, my words, not yours, but you got to a point where you said, you know what, I just got to do what I want to do.
Right.
And let the other shit take care of itself. Right.
Right.
Because if you're true to yourself as an artist, if you're following your intuition and making choices accordingly, everything will sort itself out. Right.
Right. And also it's like, it's a different time we're living in, back, you think of Picasso or you think of some of these other artists, and, there was a time when artists would just full-time paint and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And either they got discovered or not discovered, either they went down the books or not. But now we're living in a situation in a time where it's not so linear anymore, like myself. I mean, I'm a commercial artist. I'm an illustrator. I'm a fine artist. I do all kinds of shit. And there's so many artists like me that are dabbling in all kinds of stuff. And so it's not so linear anymore where you can put someone in a box and be like, oh, they just do this kind of thing, And so maybe that's, if we're talking about the future and people looking back, I mean, this is the era where artists branched off, I think, and became, because, you use the word pop, right? Like pop art. Well, when Andy Warhol and people like that were doing shit, artists weren't really allowed in that arena. Or if they did, their title of artist was taken away, And so that was what was interesting about Andy Warhol. He was like blurring that line. So we're beyond that. Like that line has been blurred. And so what we're doing is something else. And I don't know if that's pop anymore because it's so many other things. I don't even know how to describe it. And that's part of the reason that I don't know what the hell they're going to say in the future. Because
so what does, and consider this question and answer the question, and I'll tell you why I'm asking it. You've studied fine art, you've studied art history, you've studied the academic books about these things. So in your own words, how would you define folk art?
To me, folk art is something that's usually regional and that has to deal with people who are creating art who necessarily didn't study it. They're not artists who went to school to become artists necessarily. Maybe they have another trade or don't even consider themselves artists, but somehow they're creating something that, again, that's another term for folk art is outsider art, right? So it's like these people are creating stuff that most people wouldn't consider art necessarily. And maybe they themselves wouldn't consider it art, but they're creating anyways, and whether it's sculpture or whether it's paintings or whatever, there's kind of a real crudeness to it. To be honest, like I look at a lot of folk art. I have a collector who collects a lot of folk art from like Louisiana and stuff like that. And he loves it. And he's totally into it and goes and finds these artists and loves meeting them and hearing their stories and all that stuff. And most of them are probably Black artists that he collects. But to me, when I see folk art, like I'm not interested. It doesn't do anything to me. It's not appealing. For me, it's like it's just a preference.
So, but the way you describe folk art, just broadly speaking, one might argue that the criteria that you listed apply to graffiti.
Right. Yeah, I could.
So is graffiti a folk art? And if not, why not?
Well, I mean, when you start getting into terms and terminology and shit like that, there's, you can argue it forever, but I call it graffiti and that's it. Like, I don't like all these other terms for people using it like, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. No, it's fucking graffiti.
Right.
Because it's very specific. Because sure, a lot of the stuff that I just mentioned about folk art can apply to graffiti. I can see that. But then there's a whole bunch of other shit that has nothing to do with folk art,
The one thing you didn't say about folk art that I thought maybe you were going to say, which would have been a core difference, say, between folk art and graffiti, is that folk art typically has, and I don't know if this is true, but I thought maybe you might say this, because when I think of folk art, I think of it being as primarily coming out of rural areas.
Totally.
And graffiti art obviously is not coming out of rural areas, but urban areas. So to me, that was a key difference that I wondered about, to what extent is folk art inherently or intrinsically rural in nature? I don't know. I'm just a thought.
And I'm no expert on folk art. I mean, I don't know shit about it except what I've seen or read.
Oh, you're working with toothpicks right now.
Yeah,
you're building a structure right now with toothpicks.
I call that fine art.
No, but you're right. And I agree. Look, I agree with you.
Well, you know what's funny is that this conversation came up because I was just at a gallery the other day. Yeah, and I'm gonna look this artist up because we might as well give him a shout out. Oh, by the way, the Getty book is the Liber Amacorum. So
easy for me to say.
LA not Liber Amacorum, which is
Liber Amacorum,
which is translates to the Book of Friends.
Ah, so nice. I like that.
I like Book of Friends better than Liber Amacorum. It's too.
Sounds like you're speaking in tongues.
Yeah, it is. So, but anyways, the other day I was in Chinatown and I checked out a few galleries, but I was checking out the Good Luck Gallery.
Good Luck Gallery. Yeah.
Yeah. And so just popped in, see what they had, and they were showing a folk artist. So it's funny you mention it. And this guy's name is Willard Hill.
Willard. Hey, what up, Willard?
Yeah. And I think she said he was from Tennessee.
Been there many times. I wonder what part.
I think that's what she said. I hope I got that right. But anyways, here's a bunch of his stuff.
Yeah.
It was like he used tape.
Right.
To create sculptures. Like just
tape.
He would just tape stuff together and then use like his wife's nail polish and stuff like that to paint it. And he didn't start creating, as she told me in the gallery, he didn't start creating art or sculptures till like he was in his 60s.
Wow.
Like I guess he was in the hospital or something like that, and then had nothing to do and decided to just start putting tape together and creating
Love
sculpture.
that story. Yeah.
So, I think that's exactly what comes to my head when I think of folk art, right?
Sure.
That's exactly what I think of. Someone who didn't even consider themselves an artist, who all of a sudden is doing something that's creative. And
right.
What was also interesting was the conversation I had with her. I believe her name was Phoebe, the director there. She was saying, that their gallery focuses a lot on showing that type of art, folk art and other types of art. And, they don't really focus on like graffiti or street art or whatever. But, and she was saying, well, I wonder why folk art isn't as big here as in other, and her own answer to it was that because LA is so big on other types of art, like street art or whatever else, that there isn't a lot of room for folk art or whatever. But I think it's more than that. I think it's, like I said, it's regional and it's something that like definitely I think of places like, Louisiana and Georgia and places like that when I think of folk art. So who knows exactly what it is, but when you see it in a gallery like in Chinatown, it's so out of context.
Yeah.
That I think either you're gonna love it or hate it. I think.
Right.
Because you definitely are not going to see that just anywhere in LA.
Right.
But if you're into that, then you got your little niche. So.
And I only bring this up. I'm stirring it up. I'm bringing it up to stir it up.
Yeah.
Because you said a minute ago something that really resonated with me, which is like you said something about you bring up labels. You talk about labels. Debate a lot of things. I bring it up because, of course, with a name like Not Real Art, it poses the basic question: well, what does that mean? What is art? What is real art?
Yeah.
Is there such a thing? And I can understand that as we look back on history, right, we have to somehow organize the art.
Yeah.
Right. And labels help you do that. Periods, whether it's a time period or whatever. And now this time period, call it 21st century era.
Right.
It is this explosion of creativity and production.
Yeah.
And there's so much mashing up.
Right.
There's so much blending and mashing up of genres, of aesthetics, of technologies, of things that labels start really failing because they become too narrow or they become too, and for me, because I've been thinking, about this vis-a-vis Not Real Art and just, conversations I've had with people want me to explain why not real art and what have you. And it's like, well, fundamentally, I believe anyway, that, there's no such thing. It's a joke, right? It's satirical. There's no such thing as real art.
Right.
There is only art. The question is it accessible and does it move people? Does it move you? What moves you?
Right.
And whether it's good or bad, that's a relative debate, whatever, Now, is it different and new? Is it unique? Is it something, is artist saying something that's never been said before? Okay, that's a slightly different conversation, maybe more of a cerebral critique, academic conversation that gets to history and what has come before and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But in the now, for people today, it's not too dissimilar from when people talk, when people talk about wine. It's like, they want to critique the wine and break it down and taste like this or taste like that. Reminds me of this, reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Most people will tell you, fuck that. Do you like it? Does it taste good?
Right.
Right. And I feel the same way about art. It's like, who gives a shit about the label? Do you like it? Does it resonate with you? Does it move you?
Yeah, that's true.
And so yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely not trying to pigeonhole or label anything. I want to almost, I think I'm getting to the point where I just want to call it art.
Yeah.
Call it art, and then let the artist and the viewer, the potential collector, could, decide if it's good, bad, if it moves them. And by the way, is it accessible? At $1.4 million, that fucking Banksy piece is not accessible, except to a very rare port, and most of the artists I talk to, while they would like that kind of money, maybe at the end of the day, they really want people to own their art.
Yeah.
And they want people to buy their art. And while $1.4 million payday, which of course, very little, maybe, I don't know how much of that is going to Banksy himself, but probably very little. But I think the power structure of the art world, like to create this caste system or this architecture to facilitate, perpetrate its own self-interest.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, there is a thing called the art market.
Yeah.
So if everything had the same value, you couldn't have a market,
Right.
And I kind of look at like art, maybe I guess like the way you were describing it right now, it made me think of like cars, right? If you tell someone like, hey, let's go in your car somewhere, or, let's just grab your car, or what do you drive? No one just says, oh, I have a car. Or some people say, I have a car. Yeah, I have a car. But like, there's a joke somewhere about like, how do you know if someone owns a Prius? Because they tell you they own a Prius. Right?
Right.
And so it's
Tesla
like,
too, for that matter.
Tesla, and that's what I'm talking about. It's like, there's people who are always going to be at that level. That's why they got that car, so they can tell people they got that car. That's why they got this painting, so they can tell people they have this painting. So I think we're never going to get rid of that. But here's like the value of what art means to somebody is different than just the market. So, for example, if someone had a painting and they said, "Oh, this is precious. I paid $1.4 million for it." Right? Now, is that more valid than the guy who has a little fucking sunset of when he proposed to his wife on the beach in fucking Hawaii, and he says, "Oh yeah, this painting is priceless. Like, I'll never sell this painting because this is where I proposed to my wife."
Right.
What has more value? What is it?
Those are different values, right? Because the one has emotional value.
Right.
The other has maybe no emotional value at all. It's just a commercial.
So now is it art? So that gets back to the point. So what is art? What if it moves you? Is that art? Or does it have, or if there's a price tag to it, is that art?
Well, I mean, I guess kind of gets back to whether or not you're a burner, right? I mean, the point is that it's art because it was made by an artist. If the artist says it's art, then it's art.
Yeah.
These other things are the extra stuff. As soon as it enters into the market, right? What is the intent and the motivation of the person acquiring that art, right? Is it purely a investment?
Right.
They don't have an emotional attachment to anything but the money, right? Or is it the emotional attachment to the art itself because it was connected to something very special to them or what have you? All kinds of currencies, right? There's all kinds of values, systems. Art can hit on all of that. And that's what's so fascinating.
Because personally, when I sell a painting, if I put a painting online and someone just clicked on it and bought it, and it got shipped to them, and I never met them, great, I got some money. Okay, whatever. But when I have a collector who comes to my studio, looks at all my work, asks questions, we hang out, we talk about shit, and then he buys a painting, like, that's way more valuable to me as an artist. To have someone who's like, this guy really digs my work, and now we're connected on another level. And most of my collectors become my friends, just in general. That's kind of the natural kind of thing, and that's way more fulfilling, I think, than just selling a bunch of shit online or anywhere else and never having a connection with the buyer.
Sure.
So, but then again, Would I sell $1 million painting to somebody I didn't know? Fuck yeah.
Right.
But I don't know. It's not going to have that same connection. I don't know. It's weird.
It's nuanced and it's complicated and it's messy and it's, I think that's the kind of the beauty of it. Okay. So you said, well, what is art? Right.
Yeah.
And I said, well, art is, the artist says it's art. Artist made it. Are you a burner if you go to Burning? What?
Yeah.
So behind you, there is a piece hanging on the wall here in the Not Real Art Studio.
Yeah.
That to me is a precious piece of art. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all in how it came to me or how it.
Yeah.
And to the extent that art is in the process, is made in the process. Right. And for our listeners who can't see what, although if you go to our Instagram account, you'll be able to see it at Not Real Art Official. But on the wall in the Not Real Art Studio is a fairly large frame. Was it 3x4, something like that, 4x5, containing a piece of plywood painted blue and yellow with the words "Star Maps Here." Right? It's a blue background on the plywood with the yellow letters, and it is essentially from Sunset Boulevard. They've seen, people that have seen any movie in LA, Hollywood, or music video, they've probably seen these signs. So if they've been to Hollywood, they've seen these signs. Star Maps Here, you buy them, you stop, you buy a star map to go see the celebrities' homes or whatever. And when I moved to LA in 2001, I wanted one of those signs for my own enjoyment in my own office, And I had made several attempts to buy one of these signs. Mm-hmm. And I would pull over and was rejected every time. Initially, it was a language barrier because I couldn't speak Spanish.
Right.
So then even one day I took a friend with me who could speak Spanish, and the guys would not sell me because I was trying to give them like $100.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
$100. They wouldn't do it.
No.
Wouldn't do it.
No.
Now, I'm guessing they wouldn't do it because they were scared for their jobs or whatever the case might be. But like that $100, and I might have even offered them more, but I know I started at $100. But it was like, it was a no-go, you know? And I was so bummed, right? I was so bummed that I couldn't get this sign. Well, as fate would have it, one night I'm driving down Sunset Boulevard through Westwood. Okay. And it's dusk. It's like, 6 or 7 o'clock, whatever. And the sun's going down. And I pull up to the stoplight. And I forget now the cross street, but Sunset Boulevard right at Westwood. Maybe it was Westwood. And I see one of these guys ditching a sign in the bushes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boy. What a stroke of luck.
Yeah.
Of intel,
Yeah.
So, but of course, I can't make a move now.
No, you got to wait. Yeah.
So I go home, I wait for the sun to set.
Of course.
And around midnight, I organize a SEAL Team 6 like mission to go extract this package.
Right.
And I get to Westwood. There's no one on the street. It's like, it's like no one's like,
Yeah.
And I pull over and I run, through the bushes. I get over there, whatever. And no kidding, there's not one sign. There's not two signs. There's like 6 signs just stashed,
That's the spot.
Well, of course. I mean, the mother load.
Yeah. You got
the motherfucking load. I ain't gonna lie. I got excited. I got greedy. Okay. I'm like, okay, well, should I take them all? I'm like, no, I can't take them all. I'll take 2. So I grab 2.
Right.
Go through the bushes, get to my car, throw them in the back seat.
Yeah.
Take off. I get home, pull the signs out, stash them in my garage.
Yeah.
Hit the hay. I wake up the next morning, and you would think that I'd be so proud, so happy that I had extracted the package successfully.
Yeah.
No one got killed. No one got hurt.
Right.
No one got wounded.
Yeah, it was successful.
However, that was not how I felt.
No.
Because I'm a bitch ass fucking punk sometimes. I actually started feeling badly that I had taken more than one. Right?
Yeah.
Because I started thinking about that gentleman who was going to go back and realize that 2 of his signs have been taken. And it's like, I mean,
I swear to God, I put him here.
What is that guy going to get fired? Is he going to get deported? Is he going to, who knows? Like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you would think that any thinking normal person would feel that way and go like, I got to return them.
Yeah.
You know? But I'm not a thinking normal person. I am a fucked up individual. Okay. Because I decide, well, you know what? I feel really bad, but not that bad. I'm just going to return 1. So
how does that make any sense? I don't know.
Exactly, because I'm a fucking idiot. That's how it makes sense.
Yeah.
So later that night, I take one of those fucking signs. I go back. I plant it back. Okay?
Yeah.
But I keep 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the sign hanging behind you, framed, is this sign that I managed to find, steal, and keep.
Yeah.
And to me, it is a priceless piece of iconic history.
Yeah.
LA history. Is it art? It is to me.
Right.
Did I make it? Kind of. Not really, but kind of.
Right.
But it is absolutely one of my favorite pieces.
Right.
It took about 5 years to complete that work.
Right. Right.
I started in like 0102.
Right.
And I ended up with it in like 0506.
It takes time to create good art sometimes. Well, you know what's funny is, I don't think I've told you this before, but so one time I went to Mexico. I went to a lucha libre match. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, this was in Querétaro, Mexico. And after the match, the guy that was kind of showing me around, he took me to kind of like the backstage area or whatever, where they had all these posters, like all the posters they stick up all over the city. So him and his friends go and put them up. You know, they work with the local lucha libre place or whatever, and so they'll go put them up every week. And so he was just showing them to me, and he gave me a bunch of posters. He like rolled them up, and they're like on newsprint, like shitty, right? But they're just in Spanish, and it just has the whatever the match was that week or whatever. So he gave me like a roll. And I remember when I came back and we met up. Yeah. And then I showed them to you. Yeah. And you were like, "Oh, dude, that's fucking awesome. I want one of those." Yes. Right. And it was so funny because I never told you this before, but so I gave you the poster or whatever.
Me two.
I gave you two posters.
They're framed and they're downstairs.
Exactly. So the next time that I saw them, they were framed in your house. Yeah. And at that moment, I was like, holy shit, that's fucking art. That's right. Right. And I would have never thought to frame them. Yeah. Because to me, they're just like these shitty posters from Mexico. It's kind of like, it's cool that I have them. It's just kind of like part of my trip. Right. But I would have never thought to hang them. Like it just, it's just not, it's like, whatever. So after when I saw you frame them, I was like, they look pretty fucking cool.
That motherfucker.
And I was like, this fucking gentrifier,
White privilege had a good idea.
White fucking privilege, this appropriation of my culture.
Yes.
But I gotta admit, it looked cool in the frame. So I still haven't framed mine, but I will.
Dude, look, I mean, it's so funny that you say that because I mean, to me, when I saw them, as you know, I mean, like to me, they were just these exotic pieces of culture. They were pieces of culture, like pure pieces of culture. And I just love them because they were so authentic and so like, pure. And that was it for me. It's like to me, because to me, that gets to at least, and again, everyone is different. But like for me, that's where I find that's the art that speaks to me, lots of art speaks to me, but there's got to be a level of cultural integrity and purity and authenticity. And those words are overused, but these days, but my point, like it's just got to feel like And so I love those pieces, and I'm so
Yeah.
grateful you gave them to me. But I have always gravitated to those kinds of artifacts, those
Sure.
cultural artifacts,
Right.
you know, because there's a humanity to them,
Mhm.
and there's a warmth and a love. At least I sense the love to it, you know, and in the, you know, that just resonates. And
Right.
I've fantasized over the years about doing a road trip across the country to collect
Mhm.
what I'll call, you know, handmade communication.
Yeah.
Handmade signs. You know,
Okay,
you see these a lot, you know, in rural areas or back roads or, you know, small towns. And the level of, sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're sad, sometimes they're well made, sometimes they're poorly made.
Right.
But you know them when you see them because there's some charm. There's a charm about them.
Right.
You know, this, you know, these handmade, you know, communications, whether they're signs, maybe a lot of them tend to be maybe marketing related. They're trying to advertise something or what have you. And I always thought would be really fun to kind of go around and collect and curate a show.
Right.
Because it's Americana, at least within, you know, of course you could do it probably in any country if you knew that language and understood the context of the culture. But at least in this country, for me as an American, it would just be like a slice of life, Americana, curating some Americana.
Right.
But yeah, those are special signs to me.
It's funny you mentioned that because I'm currently collecting signs myself.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And I have this whole project that I want to do. 2 projects. One is more like a usage of these signs as art.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one is I'm going to create these signs to put them out in the wild. They kind of stem from the same idea, but I started noticing signs around LA. And I'm not going to get too much into it because I still haven't finished my collection.
Sure. Yeah,
So I don't
right.
want to have other people steal my idea. But I started noticing a lot of signs around LA that no longer give any direction
Right.
or they don't function.
Right.
But they're still up and they've been up for years.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, why has no one taken that shit down?
Right.
It's that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like it becomes part of the landscape.
Sure.
It's like there's a tree and maybe the tree dies, but no one goes and cuts it.
Right.
It's still there.
Right.
And that's how people treat these signs. So I've been collecting them and I have a whole idea of a show I want to do.
I love that.
With all these signs that,
Cool.
and I'm still debating whether do I get these signs and incorporate them to my, you know, with my work, or do I get these signs and just individually frame them as art?
Right.
I don't know yet.
Right.
I'm still debating, but I've been collecting all these signs, and there's more to it than that. But that's the basic premise of these signs. And so, in reverse, what I want to do is I want to start populating the city with signs that are fucking pointless. So it's kind of a 2-prong effort, you know?
Sure.
So I'm going to be collecting the shit that no one, because I figured, you know what? No one cares about this shit.
Right.
It's been up there for years and no
Right.
one's saying anything.
Right.
I might as well trade it out for some of my shit that no one's going to say anything about anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm working on that series right now. It's probably going to take a while, but it just makes me laugh. Like, you know, seeing that on the street and just like, oh my God, like what the fuck are we doing? Like it's just absurd the fucking world we live in and what we accept and don't accept, you know?
Right.
So, but you know, I think graffiti's like that. It's interesting. What is interesting about the signs that I've discovered as I navigate the city looking for these signs, I rarely find these signs in Beverly Hills or in high-end communities.
Yeah. Right.
Because they really care about their community.
Yeah.
Now, where people, quote unquote, don't care about their community, wherever that is,
Right.
wherever people don't have money or whatever,
Right.
these fucking signs are everywhere.
Right. Sure.
It's like fucking wildlife.
Yeah.
And
Like
that's another statement. So I would love to fucking put them back into the wealthy neighborhoods.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
Except I'm sure I'll get arrested and thrown in jail.
Yeah, but that's the price you pay for being an artist.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece. You got to pay the price.
Unless I pay you to do it.
You don't have that much money.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, by the way, my white privilege, you won't have to pay me because I won't get arrested.
No, well, that was my point. That's why I was going to hire you. I was going to hire you. I was going to hire you for the white privilege.
Okay, I got it. Okay,
but I forgot white privilege comes with the price.
Yes. No, that's right. Well, yeah. No, well, first of all, to be clear, that's the line I just gave you about you don't have enough money. Like, that's my canned answer for anytime anybody ever says I should hire you to. I'm like, you can't afford me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you never know. Maybe they'll go like, name your price, and suddenly I'm, So it was a canned answer. But then as I thought it through, I'm like, no, that's right. I can do this shit and just get away with it because I'm a fucking white guy.
You remember when you stole that fucking piece there? The star maps?
Yeah, star maps, yeah.
I couldn't have stole that piece.
Yeah. Well, if you had been SEAL team like, you might would have gotten away with it because it was under the cover of darkness and I was using, state-of-the-art technology, my Volkswagen Jetta. But yes, no, the Beverly Hills thing, my whiteness will definitely help.
It will definitely help. Yeah, that might be a project we got to do.
All right. Well, let's continue to work on that project. And before we go today, because feds are going to revoke our license here if we don't wrap it up soon.
Yeah.
But want to remind our faithful, loyal, lovely, beautiful listeners to show us some love on social media. Follow us at Not Real Art Official on Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast and comment, like, and share. Can get to it through notrealart.com or anywhere you find your podcast. And then, of course, there's always the hotline, 833 Not Real. Tell us your wildest dreams.
We'll be listening.
All right, Man One.
Sourdough.
Peace.
Out.